Hello everyone! In our last video we learned about the types of inheritance in Java, single, multi-level, and why Java does not support multiple inheritance. Today we are going to learn about two really important keywords that work closely with inheritance and constructors, which are this and super. When you create an object of a subclass, Java does not just call the subclass constructor. It also calls the superclass constructor automatically. Think of it like opening a bank account. The bank does not just create your personal account, it also automatically sets up the basic underlying account structure that every account is built on. So similarly, when you create a subclass object, Java sets up the superclass part first, then the subclass part. It means if you create an object without passing any values, Java calls the default constructor. But if you create an object and pass values, Java calls the parameterized constructor. This automatic calling of superclass constructor is handled by the super method. This one. So, every constructor in Java already has a superclass. Every constructor in Java already has a super call as its very statement. Even if you never write it, Java adds it automatically behind the scenes. Let's prove this with an example. First, let's create a class in our com.basic package. We call it vehicle. We create its constructor. How do we create the constructor? The name of the class, copy paste it, parentheses, and curly braces. And here I want to print vehicle constructor called. Now let's create another class inside this package. Call it car. And this car class, let's extend vehicle class. It means car is the child of vehicle, which is the parent class. Now let's create the car constructor. The name of the class, parentheses, and curly braces. Here, Java automatically adds super method as the first statement. And we also want to be printed car constructor called. Now let's create a car object. Oops. Sometimes when we type too fast, it means we are gonna have some kind of problems as well. Wait a moment. Create parameter. Nope. Because we were inside the constructor, that's why there was a problem. Okay. So how we can create an object? Copy the name of the class, paste it here, then we choose a name for our reference variable, whatever we like, for example car, new, then the name of the class, parentheses, and semicolon. So now let's run our program. We see that at the beginning we have vehicle constructor call. Second, we have car constructor call. Even though we never explicitly call the vehicle constructor, right? It's run first because Java automatically adds super as the first statement in car's constructor here. Even if we don't have it, Java automatically added super constructor. So the super method simply means call the constructor of the superclass. Super without parameters calls the default constructor of the superclass, and super with value or with parameters call the parameterized constructor of the superclass. Let's see the parameterized version that we have for these two classes. Let's go back to vehicle or the parent class. We create variable string brand semicolon, and here inside the constructor I add string brand, and I hope you remember we have to write brand equal brand because the name of the instance variable and the parameter names are the same, so we are using this keyword here. So now let's go for the car class. For the car class we do the same. We add a variable int speed, and here we add parameters string brand, which belongs to the parent class, and int speed. And now here the interesting part, we have to explicitly calling parameterized constructor of vehicle. Please notice the difference. Here we have to explicitly call parameterized constructor, while in the previous example it was automatically added. So how we can add explicitly? Write super and the name of the variable, which is brand, and semicolon. And also we have to write this speed equal speed. And semicolon. So in the previous example, the super constructor method was automatically added, but here we should explicitly call the parameterized constructor of superclass or parent class, whatever you like to call it. Now here for the object we have to add values. So as the first one is a string, I add double quote theta, for example, and the second one is an integer example. For example, the speed is 180. Okay, now let's call each variable, and then we have car.speed. Now let me run the program. Here, brand is theta and the speed is 180. Here we explicitly call super brand to pass the brand value up to the vehicle constructor. We did this explicit call, Java would try to call the default vehicle constructor, which does not exist, and give us an error. Remember, super must always be the first statement in a constructor. You cannot put any code before it. Here. So now here is something really fascinating, and it connects back to what we learned in video 38. Every class in Java implicitly extends the object class. Which one? The object class. By the way, it's a class, so it should be written with a capital letter. Even if you never write extends object, this means there is always a hidden multi-level inheritance change in every Java program. So for example, when we have a class, so your class has a superclass automatically behind the scenes, which is the object class. That's interesting, right? So when cars constructor calls super, it calls vehicle constructor, and vehicles constructor also has a hidden super call, which calls the object class constructor. So the conflict changes like this. I hope you don't feel confused. Object constructor has the vehicle constructor, and then we have car constructor. So behind the scenes we have the object constructor which is the default or the first constructor. Then we have the parent or superclass constructor, then the car constructor or the child constructor. So this is why we said in video 38 that the object class is the superclass of every class in Java, and it always sits at the very top of the inheritance chain. Now let's talk about this method, which we mentioned at the beginning of the video, which is similar to super, that works within the same class. While super calls the constructor of the superclass, this calls another constructor of the same class. This is useful when you have multiple constructors in the same class and want to reuse code between them. A technique called constructor chaining. For example, let's come back to our previous class. Student, let me create a few variables. String, okay, a string name and age, double GPA. Now let me write the constructor of this class. How we can write the name of the class? Student, parenthesis, curly braces. Inside it, I write this, a noun, 0.0. So we here call parameterized constructor, right? I hope you can remember what we have covered in our previous lesson. So let me see this, a noun. Default constructor called. Okay. And let's write another parameterized constructor, string name and age and double GPA. Now let's write this dot name equal name, and this dot age equal age, and this dot GPA equal GPA. And we here want to write or print parameterized constructor call. Now let me create object. The name of the class is student. st1 equal new student. Student. st2 equal new student. For the second one, let me add values ali 20 and 3.8. I made so ali 23.8. So okay, if we want to like have okay, before going to this part, let me summarize this part for you. Parameterized constructor called. Here, parameterized constructor call. When we created st1 here, using the default constructor, it called this unknown 00, which jumped to the parameterized constructor first, set the default values, and then come back to finish the default constructor. This avoids code duplication in a state of writing the initialization code twice. we write it once in the parameterized constructor and call it from the default constructor using this. So just like super, this must always be the first statement in a constructor in here. Look, this, and then we have this constructor. So in here, at the beginning, parameterized constructor call was printed, and then the default constructor call is printed. And as I said, when we call st1 using the default constructor, it called the 00, jump to parameterized constructor first, and then come back to finish the default constructor. So let's quickly compare the super with this. This method calls constructor of the same class, while super calls constructor of the superclass. And here is the key similarities. Both are non-static, both must be the first statement, and both can be used anywhere. Both are used for constructor chaining. So, and this is this and super in Java. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe the channel so you never miss a video. See you in the next one.